On the 16th of January 2011, there was a social unrest on the street of Libya, protesting against the long-standing leader, Muammar Gaddafi. It is believed that the Jasmine Revolution from Tunisia and Egypt has spread the influence to their neighboring country, which leads to this revolution. In March, the United Nations has imposed no-fly zone in Libya. Following that, other countries including the United States, Britain and France start urging Gaddafi to step down. Meanwhile, the National Transitional Council has been established. The international parties began to provide military, economic and political support to the NTC. Under the influence of the West, the NTC has released a vision of democratic Libya, hoping for democratic reform resembling that of the West.
Until an interim authority is in place, the United States will recognize the TNC as the legitimate governing authority for Libya, and we will deal with it on that basis.
With increasing military help from NATO and the UN, anti-Gaddafi forces soon getting the most strategic place under their control, and finally on the 20th of October, Gaddafi was killed by its people. That officially ends the 10-month-long revolutions in Libya. First, let's recall Mannheim's key ideas. Karl Mannheim distinguished ideology and utopia based on the two main important criteria. First, whether it has burst the bonds of the existing order, and second, whether it has transcended reality. To Mannheim, total ideology had its totality because it is systematically integrated and it's shared by a larger social group. It is like a false consciousness obstructing the ever-changing reality that falsely interprets the actual world. In other words, it creates a self-perpetuating system of thoughts with deception, idealization, and mythicization. Therefore, total ideology can never be realized in the existing social order. However, utopian ideas are never absolute. It attempts to break through the existing social structure. But unlike total ideology, it has taken into account of social context. In other words, achieving utopia is a recurring cycle. Once the utopian ideas have burst the existing order, it is not static. From the newly established order, there was still a dynamic and dialectical exchange going on. That would provide new direction for another utopian idea to raise up. When looking closely to a vision of democratic Libya, it seems to replicate the Western democratic discourse so closely.
Now the focus will be on building a lasting democracy, with the first elections planned for 8 months from now. This may be hard to organise since Libya hasn't held an election since the 1950s. The future parliament is expected to be made of a national council with around 200 members. That group will have the task of choosing a prime minister and an interim government, then drafting a constitution within 60 days. The public will get the chance to have their say on the constitution through a referendum.
With the ambition to set up constitutional government and embrace political pluralism, the interim government tried to adopt the Western doctrine in Libya, believing that it is possible for Libya to realize these democratic ideas as well. Islamic is very influential in Libya. Many of them are conservative and have allowed only certain traditional ideas or beliefs. After the death of Gaddafi, the religious group now come up and claims setting up a government with their domination. Religion also limits the freedom of a woman can have. Under Islamic, women have to be very restrictive in their own life. When compared to men, women are deprived of basic freedom. Even after the holding of election, women are unlikely to vote, although the literacy rate in Libya is among the highest in the Arab world. Its education only presents a one-side view on how to respect authority. That means they have never ever come across the ideology of democracy in theory. All they know about democracy comes from the media. Under the rule of Gaddafi, alternative political parties and public organizations are not allowed. Media censorship and political coups are the usual practice. So, people do not have experience to participate publicly in the political discussion. All these show that most of the people in Libya do not have the democratic consciousness at this moment to support the development of democracy within the country. Moreover, Mannheim has always reminded us to look into the past. He wrote, "But if we look into the past, it seems possible to find a very adequate criterion of what is to be regarded as ideological and what as utopian." Here in the quote, the past has two levels. It could be the past of an established utopian system, or it could be the past of another system who shares similar social contexts. At our case, the government still hasn't achieved its aim by drawing up a political dogma for the country, and that hinders our observation to look into the past. Therefore, we choose to compare Libya with other Arab countries whose social structure is similar.
The ideas being presented will not work. The structure that we are supporting is a non-democratic structure for Afghanistan.
For example, in Afghanistan and Iraq, the U.S. has sent their army in and declared to facilitate the setting up of democratic governments. However, both failed at the end. There are ongoing warfare among opposition parties and religious groups. Conflicts are still going on among the people. They do not embrace political pluralism in making state decisions. Both countries' political systems are in chaos. All these failures in establishing an efficient democratic government is what exactly Mannheim told us. They failed to take care of the dialectical reality in the country. When we turn our attention again to Libya, we could see ongoing political developments happening in the country. For example, the influential religious group demand for higher political participation in the new government. Islamic ideas are now likely to be the new dogma for the country. Can we treat it as a modified version with social reality taken into account? Is it a better fit for social context in Libya while most of them are Islamic?